Hello everyone. Give me 2 seconds to sit down. Hi everyone, it's Kieran from 81 Vintage and welcome to my channel. 2 seconds while I just see if this camera's straight. Possibly isn't. Nope. Just sort that out, bear with me. And then we will crack on with today's project. So I hope you've all had a great week. Thank you for joining me, or if you're catching this on the replay, if you do come on, feel free to say hi. We're going to get into a craft in a minute. I've prepped some things on this, some things I'm going to do with you. The vote that I did was sort of, when I looked at it the other day, it was saying that, you know, most of you wanted a Halloween craft, and then when I actually went on, it swapped and it said a lot of you wanted a Christmas craft. So we're going to go halfy. I thought I had some Christmas stuff that I could just pull out, but in the end, when I went to go and find it, I couldn't find the item. So I've had to come up with something else instead. I hope you've all had a brilliant week. And if you're in the UK, I hope this weather's not been affecting you too much today. But what we're going to be doing is, I've seen quite a lot of vintage Halloween signs, and we definitely don't have them in the UK. And also on Instagram and stuff, I've seen that people make them and they sell them, and they sell them for quite a lot of money. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to try and make one of those signs. And I saw that someone said in one of those things that in their posts that they have this secret way of making the signs look old. And I thought, well, I know exactly how you do it, so I would try and come up with my own version. So in the UK, these probably wouldn't sell for too much, but if you're in America or something, these could actually probably be very sellable. And when the live's finished, I will put the graphic available in the comments as well, so you can go and download it. So the graphic is this, and I've put this together from a couple of vintage ghost designs. And we're going to transfer it onto a piece of old hardboard and this is great. I actually pulled this piece out of a skip. So I was walking past, anytime we're walking the dogs, if we're walking on one side of the road and I spot a skip on the other side of the road, we have to cross over to go and have a look. And one day I actually pulled this out. So I think I could get 2 or 3 ghosts from this, and I think this would be really, really sweet to turn into bunting. So maybe next year I might offer some sort of version of bunting of this, if I'm still doing YouTube by then, if I've not been forced back to work. But I thought I'd share with you sort of the process. So I've done some prep for this already. I have painted this board, which we're going to use for this sign. And hopefully you can see that it's got, in the white section, a load of sort of distressed, you might not be able to see that, but it's got loads of little bobbles and things that you don't get to see in old signs. So I thought I'd share with you how I did it. And because it takes a while to dry, I've done that one, and I'm just going to show you on this sample board. So what I did is I got an oil-based paint. Now, oil-based paint, actually, if you burn it, will bubble and will look like it's a much older sign. So it will look like it's had years of sun damage. It will look like it's just been on the side of the building for a really long time. So what I've got is this black oil-based paint. This is a matte black. It's from Poundland. When I first started upcycling, all my paint, because I used a lot of black, all used to come from Poundland, and that's how I got started. Obviously, now I use a lot more water-based paints because they're just a lot easier, and I was always throwing away brushes. So this is really simple. What you do is you just put a coat of paint on this. Now, I don't recommend you do this inside, but you then get an extreme distressing method. If you think people distressing with a sander is extreme, I like to distress with a blowtorch. And I learned this skill from a antique professional restorer. So what you do, being very carefully and preferably outside, because dependent on your oil-based paint, it can go up like that. This one doesn't, this just bubbles. So what I'm going to do is just show you just a little bit what happens. So can you hear that crackle? That is the paint essentially burning, and that's pretty extreme. You know, that is distressing at its finest. So what I'll do is, I've done nearly all of that, well, that big section, in seconds. So I'll come close to the camera and I'll show you, and hopefully you'll be able to see the bubbles that it actually causes. So we'll pop that. So hopefully, I've got a bit of a delay on my computer, so I can't quite see, but can you see that crackle there? You see all those bubbles that start up. And if you do it with your brush with peaks, you see less brush strokes. So obviously I've got some brush strokes there, but you can see less peaks. And when you've painted it white, it will then go like this. So it will go with all these little bubbles and signs of age on it that you just do not get any other way. It looks truly, truly authentic. So that's a pretty extreme method of distressing, but so handy. And it's one of my, I use it all the time in all my signs that I do. So if you've seen in my booth, I do signs and I do that with them, and they just go whoosh. And in the it's great for in the UK, if you're in the UK, for cold weather, because it means the paint will dry really quickly if you're using an oil-based paint. But it also means that, you know, once it's almost been burned, once it cools down, that is it. So that's a really good way of distressing, and you'll probably see more and more of that on my channel. So back to the sign. So I've already done that. I've painted this white in Ferny paint, in antique white, and next we want to move on to the sign. So I've printed this off. My printer wasn't big enough to print off as big as I wanted. So I've got my massive yeah, Paula, it is a pretty extreme way of distressing, but it's pretty fun as well, as long as you're careful. So I'm using my massive thrifted scissors, and I'm just going to cut the ghost and line up the two lines to make a single big one, and secure it with some sellotape like that. And you'll have seen me do that in my school video I did the other day. Pretty straightforward. There's lots of videos on how you can piece together your graphics and things like that. And then I'm going to use a super old-fashioned way of transferring graphics, which is carbon paper. So carbon paper is brilliant, very inexpensive, very hard to find now in shops, so I always have to get it online, and it lasts forever. So all I do is put down the carbon paper like so. Then I'll take my ghost, I'm going to pop him in the corner, and then I will cut out the rest of the ghost later. I'll cut him out with a jigsaw. So just arrange that so that it's all underneath. And then pop a little bit of tape to secure it in place. And then I'm just going to use a biro, so just a ballpoint pen, to draw around the ghost. So to just draw around the edge loosely that I'm going to be filling in. So very, very simple. I've used this for years. I've done big signs, small signs, complicated designs. It also comes, the carbon paper comes in other colours, so white is an option, which I use when I'm doing this on a black background. Super easy. I know Julie from Julie's Designs and Signs used this method a lot when she was making signs to resell. So really simple way of doing this, and anybody can do this. If you print it out, you can do this. And if you haven't got a printer, you can go on eBay, and actually people offer printing services. So if you fancy doing the decoupage, like the fish table that I did, or if you fancy doing anything like that and you don't have a printer, you can actually just go on eBay and you can put in like laser printing service, and people will print off your graphics for you. And especially with the cost of a color laser printer, it's a really really cost-effective way of getting inexpensive prints. And I do it quite a lot because I have got a colour printer, but mine's got a big line through it, and it just means that I don't have to replace them. And recently I got something like 100 prints for about £10 of all those fish. Like, I've got a drawer in here that's literally full of cut out fish, and that's just from that, because I had 100 sheets of fish printed for about £10. So yeah, it's a really good way of getting hold of prints, and they don't have to all be the same. So if you fancy doing multiple designs or things, you can swap them and have whatever printed. So I hope you have all been having a really good week. If you're on here, feel free to say hi in the chat. I hope you've been enjoying the videos this week. This week's been a bit of a struggle. I wasn't well earlier in the week. I actually found out later I had a migraine, because when I get a migraine, I get a bruised front head, basically. And so if I cough or something, then for a couple of days after, that bit sort of is a bit tender. But that's what happened on that day. And then I was fighting with the audio on trying to get that trunk box video yesterday out. So if you did watch that one, let me know what you thought about the audio on that, and generally what you think, because with YouTube, all the YouTube advisors and stuff say to try and get 1% better with every video. And so I'm always constantly learning about the algorithm, about YouTube, about videos, about what things to do, what things not to do, and some of the rules, some of the things that people come up with are just crazy. Some of them I'm following, some of them I'm ignoring, stuff like that. So it's been a challenge this week. I've also got about 4 videos that I'm working on at the moment. I've got some mirror upcycles that I'm working on. I've got some furniture projects coming that I need to get out of the way. The antique sofa comes tomorrow, so that'll show up at some point in a video, I'm sure. I still haven't picked a fabric just yet, but that comes tomorrow. So once you've drawn your pattern, that should have transferred and left you with an outline. Actually, we're doing really quick so far. So that leaves you with an outline, and I think he looks just really, really fun. So that gives you enough to be able to go in and paint, basically. So a really retro, fun ghost. Um, and then what you can do is, if you're feeling particularly crafty or steady-handed, you can use just a paintbrush to go around and paint the details, which is fairly quick, fairly not quick. Or you can use a good quality permanent marker, which is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to use the permanent marker to just do the outline, and then any areas where it's a bit too big, I will do by a brush, because the permanent marker can, if you do a big area, look a bit purple, but it's also instantly dry, so it avoids that stage of waiting for the paint to dry. And my favourite permanent markers used to come from Wilko, which in the UK is like a like a homeware store, I suppose, with stationery and stuff in it, and body and clean and stuff. It recently went out of business. I did look for the permanent markers when they closed, but they didn't have any. And then Asda now have exactly the same brand, but it's just an own brand. So it's just their own cheapy version of a Sharpie. And I have to say, I absolutely hate Sharpies. So let me know in the comments if you if you disagree, but Sharpies just do not last. For the money, they are super expensive and they do not last. And recently I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I went to the range and I bought gold ones, and they were £5 for 4, and I used them, and it says on the packet, "All writes on any surface," and all this. And I was literally only writing on something like this, so it should have been able to do it. And no ink was coming out, not because they were dry, just because they were rubbish. They were just poorly made. So in the end, I took them back to the shop, and the woman was like, "What's wrong with them?" And I was like, "Well, they don't work. They're not writing on anything, and it says they should write on everything." Oh, she was, "Oh, let me try." And then eventually she gave me my money back. So, but it's that type of thing at the moment with craft materials and everything else going more and more expensive. You sort of almost do have to take things back when they're rubbish, because otherwise they won't improve and they'll just keep getting away with it. So own brand Sharpies are my favourite, and super easy to get hold of as well. So it's just going round, and you don't have to be super neat. It will all disappear when you distress it, if you're going to distress it. But I think what I'm going to probably do is create multiples of these and then hang them with string behind them, and maybe do like a retro pumpkin or something in between, and have them as like bunting. And for me, when I'm creating stuff like that, I don't want it to look like I've just got it from the shop. I want it to look like it was used in a retail shop, that type of thing. So one project we'll do at some point is to make a giant big retro Santa that I want to make. So that will go, can't decide, either outside or inside. Be fun if he was inside, because he would look out of the window onto the street, or to go outside, but I'd be worried someone would steal him. So so I wouldn't be sure if I wanted to do that. Now I'm just going to do my ghost's face. The only problem with Sharpies is you need to make sure that these pens, is that if you get it on your hand, make sure that you don't transfer it all over the place when it's still wet. So, but yeah, I think a number of them hanging up would be really nice bunting, and then to hang that down the stairs. And you can't really see, but I did try and line up some Halloween stuff, like the cat video from the cat video, and the devil from the devil video, the pumpkins on the floor because he didn't fit on the table. But I tried to make it a bit more Halloweeny, and they've been on the stairs. When I filmed the little short of them all lined up together, they were all full of sweets. I spent £4, went and bought loads of sweets, and those sweets lasted about 24 hours tops. So I didn't refill them after that. So I won't be doing it. But I'll have to get some more in time for Halloween. Just, no one ever knocks, but just in case, because I live in like permanent fear of at Halloween, even if I lock the doors, of someone knocking and me having absolutely nothing to offer. Absolutely empty house, because we do have sweets, but I'm not giving them a whole bar of Galaxy or something. So I'll have to find an emergency stash, but it'll have to be something that I don't particularly like, so that I don't eat them all super quick. So next, I've just swapped to filling in the line. So the line was a bit big between the two gaps. So I'm literally using some Ferny paint in Black Knight, which, as I learned on that trunk video, is a lovely paint for doing lines and things. It just spreads so nicely. And some of you have been asking about the paint and when it's coming, and I am still working on that. At the moment, I am still getting into this new routine with YouTube and trying to do all the videos and everything. I do it all myself. It's me only. All the shorts come from me. Mike helps me out sometimes with the camera, but predominantly it's me here every day. And then I see every time that the subscriber count goes up, so thank you, and I see every time that it goes down, and it's just been a bit difficult trying to adapt. So at the moment, I haven't got the time, and it's crazy how long this stuff takes to come up with and to edit. Like that trunk video took 2 days to edit, because there was something like over 140 files to go through and turn into a video. So it's super time consuming. I didn't realize how time consuming it would be, and I didn't realize that YouTube was so complicated. I'd done videos before, but I just didn't have an idea of how much goes into it. You sort of think of sometimes people having this loads of time to themselves and all of that, and it's really not the case. It is. I'm working harder now than when I worked in an office, basically. Is the truth on that. So it's been an adjustment. So to add in shipping and paint and everything else has just been something that I'll get to, but I just need to settle into the new routine. So that's my ghost painted. So painted him in. So what I'll probably do is we'll just let him dry for a minute. So where can I put him? I think the design's really fun. As I say, I'll make sure after this video goes live, I'll put the link to the ghost in the description. And we'll do this. Pull out those drawers and he can sit there for a little bit. Make sure that that's all in the description. We'll let him dry for a minute while I go on to my little Christmas craft. So I tried to come up with, because the split on the vote was 50-50-ish, I thought, let's try. I made these Christmas trees. Every year I make them for the booth. They're only about £2 or £3, but they're made of scrap wood, and I'll do a video on that in a week or so. Once we're a bit more into Christmas time, I'll do a video on that. But they're only very inexpensive. They don't take very long. So I thought, oh, I'll dig out some of those old ones. Well, when I was clearing out, I must have thrown them away because I haven't got them anymore. So literally 5 minutes ago, I had to, or 5 minutes before this, I had to come up with a plan B. So I thought it might be quite fun to try and make some vintage labels for gifts. And I've received a parcel from Temu, which I will do a proper video on. And part of what I got was these little business cards. Now, I'm going to use these as business cards in my booth. There were 100 for £1.50-ish or something. Because people keep taking, as they're supposed to, taking cards from my booth, but they're so expensive unless you buy them in crazy amounts that it's just not worth doing. So I thought we could try and make some vintage little tags. And then I also received some moulds. So I've never used a mould before, and this is a bird mould, which is, I'm not sure if this is a dupe of the IOD mould. It looks quite similar, but I couldn't tell. I think theirs might be bigger. So I had that, and then I got a few other little stamps and things as well that I thought I might be able to do something with. So I found this clay, which I've never opened. I bought for presents last year, well, for little tags last year. So I thought that might be quite fun. So I've got the tag. I've got a vintage hole punch, which I thrifted, and I'm just going to pop a hole in the corner. It's a bit wonky, but it will do. And then I wanted to use some of these stamps as well that I got. So they had a really great selection of different stamps. And when I was a kid, I used to love stamps. I used to have all the Crayola stamps, if you remember them. And I thought, I had them in a big, one of those sports drawstring bags. I had one arm full of them. And then when we moved, I thought, oh, I'm older now. I was still a kid, but I thought, oh, well, I'm older now. And it's one of those things that if I could go back in time, I would re-grab is me big thing of pens. No, not pen stamps. Big thing of stamps. So I'm going to use Ferny paint. This is our green, which I haven't officially named yet, so we'll just call it green. I'm going to use this. I've just put it on the backer of the stamp, and I'm just going to spray it with a bit of water and mix it, and then we're going to see how that stamps. So because what a lot of my crafting has all been around making money and stuff like that. So things like stamps and IOD and all of that, I haven't had much of a use for in my business, and the market around here is so tough that it's not been something that I think is going to sell, but I think it could be really interesting. So those birds, I'm actually looking forward to doing a full dresser of. How am I going to do that? A full dresser, I think, would be really amazing, of just birds everywhere. So I'm actually just brushing that onto the stamp because there's a bit too much everywhere. I'm sure if I went online or went on Temu again, I could find a green stamp. Oh. Yeah, so that's sort of worked. It's a bit heavy in some areas. I'm sure I could make that look a bit, looks awful. It looks awful on the camera, but looks quite sweet. And then if you remember, I thrifted this orange stuff, this orange raffia stuff, which has got an old health centre label on it for some reason, and I just thought I'd put that in. And I'm sort of doing a bit of a test really for my Christmas packaging to see whether or not I think that will look nice. And I think that would work. So maybe, I think the orange would work. So there's that. Then what else did I get? I got a couple of trees. There's some trees and a stag. The stag will probably be quite easy to stamp. So let's grab that. And then in a second we'll go back to the ghost. Onto the next parts of that. So you're getting both your seasons. Yeah, that sort of works. Sort of works with the little stag. So I'll do a proper haul on all the stuff that I got from Temu. I have used it. I used it before I got sent the stuff for free from them. So basically like AliExpress and things like that, but it's a bit quicker. So anyway, yeah, I think they could work, possibly. And then the other option I thought of could be quite fun is little offcuts of wood, and this is something that I did think could potentially sell, is even if it was a little offcut of wood and it was a craft that I did, and there were little tags for maybe £1 or something like that, very inexpensive, you'd make maybe 100 of them at a time, something like that, in front of the TV, pumping out moulds to make little tags with the little birds on. I think that could be quite fun. So again, got this from Temu. This one I bought with my own money. It was quite expensive. It was about £10. Apparently you're supposed to use corn flour or something like that to fill the moulds. I haven't got that, so I'm using some baking powder because quite honestly I didn't fancy opening a full thing of flour, because that's the only thing I had was some flour to try and do this. So apparently you just take your clay. I haven't got any paper clay, which is sort of supposed to be the best stuff, and then you sort of smush it in and use the edge to get rid of any excess. And I'm thinking again like a furniture dresser, probably be in a couple of weeks, because I'll have to make the moulds and let them set and stuff. But I was thinking if I can find a nice set of drawers, a bit like the moth drawers, that could be really nice filled with these. And then I also got a mould for the little key plates. So I've seen people use these full of resin, and then they use the Dremel tool to get the little key bit out so that you can use it with an actual key. And I've got a cabinet that has got some huge damage on the front, and I thought that could work really. Oh, wow, that has come out so much better than I thought it would. Ooh. Let me just bring that closer and just show. Look at all the detail on that little bird. I think, imagine a set of drawers with, I don't know whether I can make that focus, but imagine a set of drawers covered in rows of that. That would be so nice. Or rows of that with like a dot or something in between. I think that would be really nice. So that will be a project that will be coming. So if anything, it's worth subscribing just for that makeover. I'm going to keep that. Tonight we're watching a a scary movie after I've finished here. So I will wrap that up, and then over the next few days I will be filling this mould, and we will do a piece of furniture full of these moulds, because I've seen quite a few people do that anthropology knockoff dupe, where they do like a branch and then they put birds on it and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to do possibly a version like that, but I think something, because I'm dramatic and I like loads of pattern, I think I might put a whole cabinet full of those birds. I think that'd be really interesting. So yeah, I think doing those birds, I think what I'll probably do is first of all put them on the furniture, but also I think if I get little scrap pieces of wood, and I love projects like this because it really allows you to turn scrap into money. And if I make 100 or a couple of hundred of those, literally cut out little squares of wood, put the bird on, just glue it on, paint it white, and distress it a little bit or something, and just put them in the booth on like an old Christmas tree or hung up or something like that, just for £1, couple of pounds each, for maybe a big one for the bigger birds, you know, £2 for that one, £1 for the small one, and I can knock out probably 100 of those in a day, probably a day, just in the evenings, finishing them off, painting them up. I think that could be a great way. And plus, my garage is absolutely full of those scraps, so I feel guilty throwing them away. So I think it'd be great to turn them into money. So yeah, that will be a video at some point. So back to the ghost. So the Fernie paint hasn't quite dried just yet. So I think I'm just gonna blot off some of the stuff that's not quite dry. Oh, it's only a little weeny bit, so we'll just blot that off. So let me know in the comments whether you think you're going to give this a go. I hope you let me know whether you've been enjoying the videos. Let me know pointers for the videos, what you'd like to see next. It is really fun being able to create stuff. I've been already sorting things out ready to take to the shop next week, so that's good fun. Mike and I went thrifting today, but we weren't able to film a video because we got there, and because the storm was so bad, they said, right, you've got 10 minutes to shop, and then that's it, we're closed because the storm, everyone's going home. So we went through, and you know, I hung up all those paintbrushes on the wall the other day. Well, they put out boxes of boxes of boxes of paintbrushes, loads of them. So I went through and I picked out quite a few big ones so that I've got enough to now do the other side. I think I've just got to lay them out and get them out. It was too wet to go and get them out of the car before. So I'll show you that finished, hopefully. And they do look, I wasn't sure about them when they were first there, but they do look really good now. So I'm going to do the other side, and they do look really stylish. I think if the handles weren't painted black, they would look a bit ropey, but because they're sort of all uniform, they do look quite good now. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the thrift video, the latest one that I've just put out with the home decor, I've hung a load of vintage paintbrushes on the wall. So I'm going to do that on the same side, but yeah, the chap that owns the store said, oh, you like paintbrushes, I've got a load of paintbrushes, and he literally showed me a paintbrush that was about this big. So the brush itself was about 1 foot wide and it was massive, and I got a load of paintbrushes for £15. So I'll do a short and show you. Well, actually, I'm going to do a short and I'm going to say, oh, how much do you think I paid for all these brushes? So there you go. If you're watching, you know the answer. You get a gold star. But £15 for probably about 30 odd brushes. And what was quite fun is I got some brushes that are used for fake wood grain, which is something that I want to try and do, is redo antique wood grain on like a cheap piece of furniture. And the other day we were in a British Heart Foundation and they had something for a fiver, and I didn't get it because didn't know if I had the space, and then I came back and it was gone. So never mind, I'll find something else. So this is almost dry. I want to distress it, so I'm just going to very quickly blast it with the heat gun, and this will take just 30 seconds, so bear with me. I hope that's not too loud, but literally it's going round. There we go, that's it. All done. So this heat gun I got from Amazon. It's terrible. It gets terribly hot, and it lays really close to a surface. So I've got to be very, very careful about where I put it in case it goes flying off or something. It's nowhere near as good as the last one I had. So to distress this, I'm just going to use some 220 grit or 240 grit, and I'm just going to distress over it a little bit. And this is where the magic happens. So this is where that's those steps that we took earlier with the burning of the paint really comes through and does the magic. So let's just get rid of that. So literally distressed it so lightly, and what it does is it just creates, it smooths it out first of all, but it creates just the loveliest age. So I'll just very, very quickly show you the age up close, and then we'll try and finish it off. So can you see just all those little dots have just come through that you just do not get on other signs. Other signs would either be very distressed or they'd have bits. They just wouldn't have that oldie worldy paint effect on them. And that, I actually think this sign itself would be really fun just with the words like trick or treat. Something there would be really fun. I think that would work really well. Let me just grab some brown paint and we'll add a bit more discoloration. So I love dark waxes and glazes and things like that on pieces, because that's how I always find them, is with lots of signs of age on them. Jamie Ray doesn't particularly like that type of finish. She says it looks like someone's put a dirty nappy across it, but I quite like it. So what I like to do is just use some burnt umber acrylic paint and then spritz it with some water, and then get a big brush, a big fluffy brush, and just move that around almost so it's almost not there. Like literally it's like a real light wash, super light all over. And then just take a cloth, oh there's a cloth here, that'll do. Just take a fluffy cloth and then just blot over and just take that brightness of that paint away. And honestly, this would look like it was found in the back of an old shop. So an old shop from ye old times, in the back, you know, in the middle of nowhere, with their Halloween decorations in the back that they bring out every year, you know, like an old hardware shop or something like that, that's got that old musty smell about it. That's the type of look that I'm going for, because whenever I'm creating a piece, I always imagine like a false storyline of where it came from. Like, oh, this would have been in an old shoe shop or an old an old circus or an old whatever it is. And because it's just acrylic paint and it's water based, you can just take away any that you don't want. Like I want the face to be really quite clean because that's the main impact. But I think that just looks really fun and aged and distressed. And I think these would sell really well if you were to make them to sell in a booth or at a excuse me, or a shop or something. I've been talking too much, so something like that. I think they'd look really good. And then what I'll do is I will seal this. I will seal this, and I will seal it with Ferny paint, satin sealer. So if you've painted or you've used a permanent marker, sometimes a brush can reactivate your paint, and it can sort of make it go a bit streaky, or if you go over the same bit multiple times. So for that, what you can either do is first spray your sealer on, which sounds complicated, but I've got a video coming up that shows you how I use an electric sprayer. I paid $16.99 for this electric sprayer, and if you know, I've got an air compressor, but it's not powerful enough. And it's literally made sealing furniture in pieces so easy, because you take it out there, you turn it on at the wall, and you spray, and it's ready, and it's done. So easy. So I'll use the sprayer. I'll also cut this out with a jigsaw. So for the jigsaw, I just like to go very slowly, and I also pulse and pull the handle on and off multiple times, like that, all the way across, and that gives me loads of control. So a big problem that I had with the jigsaw when I first started is that I just pulled the handle and I tried to go all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around in one go. But that's really difficult to do. You have to have years of experience. But if you just pull on the handle of the jigsaw slowly, it will cut through really nicely. And next week there'll be a video where I heavily use the jigsaw, and all my tools are all donkey's years old. I paid very little for them, they were all second hand, and this jigsaw is literally smoking because it's so old and it needs to be retired. But that's it's still going, and I'm determined to get through the rest of the projects that it's got to do. So it's got 19 mirrors to work with me next week, and there'll be a video showing all of those, and I'm determined to get it to cut all 19 of them. So you'll see that hopefully if you decide to check out that video. If you are watching my videos, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I watch and I see all the view counts and everything go up, and how long you're watching them for and everything, and I really appreciate it, because I don't think of you all as a number. I think of you all in one big room with us, all sort of doing a craft or things like that all together. And I think of us, you know, sharing a space like that, not just a number. And I can't believe, you know, 3,000 of us would fill a pretty big theatre. So I think that's amazing. But if you can, one of the things I'm really struggling with is the watch time on the videos at the moment. So while I'm talking, I'm gonna try and just do a couple more of these birds and see how these come out. So let's do that together. So if you can, try and watch the whole video, because that really helps me out at the moment. The big thing that I'm struggling with is the watch time on YouTube. It's the devil, because it's really hard to make money out of YouTube. So, well, if you have got the spare time to watch the full video, that would really be amazing to me at the moment, because that will help. And that's the bit that's really the scariest, because I've already started saying to Mike that, you know, I might have to at some point think about going back to work, you know, and what point that happens. So it would be a real shame, and we're not at that stage yet, but that's just the anxiety of it, I suppose. Oh, Victoria says she always watches the full video. Thank you. and that maybe they could be a bit longer. Yeah, I struggle with that on the length thing, because everyone, all these YouTube professionals say, oh, keep them short, but I'm trying a mix. I'm trying to mix everything. That one also has come out quite nice. I'm going to put that one to one side, just a little one, and I'm going to try and do the massive one. And try. Oh, I didn't put any stuff in. Maybe that will help on the big one. So we'll see. By the time I've done a dresser and 100 or 200 ornaments, I will be a king of moulds. So we'll see. But yeah, that's. But at the moment, I'm really still loving doing all this YouTube. It's really been fun, and it's great to get through all the hoard, to be honest, because free furniture season's coming up. So if you're an upcycler, or if you're new, if this is your first year, around about nowish, sort of October, certainly November time, people start thinking about their getting ready for Christmas, and all the people who have picked up pieces of furniture who possibly had good intentions but have just never got round to them, all start evicting those pieces of furniture that they're just not going to get to. And because they want them gone, and they want them gone quickly, they either go super cheap, which, as you know, I love super cheap furniture because you can add real value to it, or they go for free, which is even better, because honestly, I love working on free furniture. It is the best, because first of all, if you mess it up, it didn't cost you anything. So when I see some people who are new to furniture flipping, they will literally go and spend £300 or £400 on a chest of drawers, and then they'll say, I'm going to paint it and I'm going to sell it for £1,000. Well, that's fine, but it's also a lot of pressure. And if you are doing that, great, well done if you can do it. But the likelihood is you've probably spent too much at the start. The profit's made in the buy. So if you spend 3 years on a cabinet, at the end of the day, that cabinet is still worth a certain amount of money to the market. So just because you've spent too much money on it, buying it, or you've spent too long working on it, it's only going to be worth a certain amount. So if you can store the furniture, then that means that come the new year, you've got lots of projects to get on with, and you can really clean up on that profit if you've got somewhere to store it. So I'm working on clearing my hoard. It's a big mould, this one, ready for free furniture season. So that's a great tip. And Paula says the video shorts are fun. Thank you. Yes, the shorts, I've been really liking doing the shorts, especially sort of the comedy furniture-y ones. There's some more of them to come, because honestly, me and Mike, we don't know how we get into some of the situations that we do. We walked into a house once. We walked into a house once that smelled like cow manure on the inside. Outside smelled fine. Inside smelled like cow manure. Another one, we went to go and collect a cabinet, and it was from a challenged house, I would say, financially challenged. And when we paid very little for it, and so I just handed over the money. And when we lifted this cabinet up, it was damp on the bottom from cat wee. And we literally took it straight to the tip on the way home, because that piece was beyond saving, and we had to drive with the windows down. So, these are all the things that we've had over the number of years, and we don't know how we get into these situations. We don't know what we do. Well, I know it's because I like cheap furniture, I suppose, but yeah, we don't understand how we get into some of these predicaments that we do. We've had the waving woman that's a challenge. The one with the lady waving, when she's sitting there waving for 15 minutes while you load something into the car, that's dedication to the wave, I tell you. Wow. Well, that took a minute to get that all smushed in there, but it has come out really nice. And I think that will look great once it's dried out. So hopefully you can see. It's very much like those retro vintage birds that go on the wall in the multiple sizes, usually made of brass. So I'm going to lay that down there to dry, and I think they're a great little money spinner. So that's our ghost. So we've had Christmas and Halloween all as one. As I say, I'll put the graphic down below in the comments. I'm going to head off in a minute. Hope you'll give this video a like. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. If you think there's somebody who would like any of my videos, feel free to send it over to them, because that would really help spread the word so that I don't have to go back to work or to corporate land. Would be amazing. And thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'm probably not going to do a live every week, but I'm going to do a live every other week. So probably the week after next, I will do another live, and we'll see what that is. It might be thrift flips, because I found a load more of them before. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you've had a great time. Well, I hope you've had a great week. I've had a great time. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me. And if you're catching the replay, don't forget to leave comments and stuff. You too, Paula, have a great weekend. And I will see you all next week. I've got lots of videos planned for next week, so make sure to catch them all out, and make sure to watch the whole of it. That would really, really help me out. We need to get that watch time up, because that is the big challenge. So if you can, much appreciated. And I will catch you all next time. I always figure out how to stop. You see the junk on the floor?